granted, let's dig in here. He's also talking about a swap of land for the end of the war, cessation of hostilities. The Ukrainians have taken a small amount of land in Russia, just a teensy little bit, but it's significant because they were able to take a small
Yeah.
sector. And then you have that 20% that Russia has maintained control over now for a couple of years. Like they've literally taken it back, and it's Russian speaking parts of Ukraine. How do
Right.
you see that cracking out?
There is no way that Russia's going to agree to give up the Donbass or the eastern component of Ukraine for the little bit of Kursk that the Ukrainians have taken, especially when the Russians are bleeding the Ukrainians out. The problem here is if we don't get, and I said this to you before President Trump was inaugurated, Trump has 100 days, 100 days, and it's less than that now to get a deal because after that, the Russians are already bleeding the Ukrainians dry. The Ukrainian military, even with all the aid we've given them, is barely hanging on, and they're going to collapse inevitably sooner rather than later. Moscow knows that. So at some point, it's going to be politically untenable for Putin to even talk about negotiating because ultimately he knows the Ukrainians literally cannot hold on. So this idea that there's going to be land swaps, it sounds great on paper, but there's no way that Putin can politically trade a small sliver of Russia for the bulk of the eastern component of Ukraine, which has been what a major component of the war has been about in the first place, controlling the Russian-speaking areas of Ukraine, and eastern Ukraine is a key component of that.
So I have to tell you, when you look at the map, it's as if Putin did exactly what he said he planned to do for the past 30 or 40 years that he's been talking about this. Like he's literally been talking about this from the moment he attained a leadership position in Russia. He's been talking about maintaining a buffer zone, having Ukraine be the great wasteland. He doesn't actually
Yes.
see it as a viable country. He sees it as a wasteland, even though it has beautiful cities and culture. He just sees it as a big old wasteland that buffers
Yeah.
him from NATO missile batteries, which goes to the military thinking that he
Yeah.
possesses and points to the difficulties in negotiating with him. Your point about the 100 days is also illustrative because Americans are tired of funding this. So his dominance there also coincides. If we don't have a deal in 100 days, what happens here? We have about a minute left. What do you expect to see Putin do?
I suspect Putin will continue the war until he just breaks the Ukrainian army in the field. And then from there, Putin will dictate terms. And I suspect Trump kind of suspects that's where this is going if he can't get a deal, which is why Trump even said Ukraine may be Russia soon, because he knows where this could go if he doesn't get a deal in 100 days.
For full shows, live and on demand, it's Salem News Channel.